let's delve further into Kenya's export strategy in the short and long term. We're joined by Peter Biwott. He is the CEO of the Export Promotion Council. You're very welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Uche.
Well, of course, as we mentioned, Kenya's plan, of course, is to grow exports by 20% each year. And that's from about $1.4 billion in 2017 to just over $10 billion by 2022. So looking at some of the recent numbers in terms of export earnings, exports to the EAC fell 2.5% last year, but we did see exports to the US under the AGOA plan rise about 25.8%. So give us a sense of what your take is on Kenya's export performance. Do you think it can achieve this goal of $10 billion by 2022?
Yes, it can achieve. As you are aware, we are currently working on improving on the manufacturing sector through the Big Four agenda. And the idea is to increase the number of products which are exportable and also to increase the value as well as to expand the value. So looking at what you have just said, what is happening within EAC is that many Kenyan companies are actually investing in the EAC. So if you look at Uganda, for example, Kenyan companies' investments is the fourth largest after, of course, Uganda, China, and India. And as well as also when you look at the African Growth and Opportunity Act, the US, there's been a lot of activities, promotional activities, and production towards the US market, which is, of course, the textile and apparel. But the bigger picture is that Kenya is seeking to bridge the gap to ensure that we achieve more exports, because this is the way that the country can actually grow in terms of achieving the most foreign exchange. And this is the model which even China has done. If you look at the Chinese economy, over the last 3 to 4 decades, they invested a lot in industrialization. They ensure that there is a lot of increased value addition as well as market access. And that is why China is one of the richest countries as we speak in terms of GDP in purchasing parity terms, which means Chinese are leading in terms of purchasing power. Yes.
But I mean, let's delve further into the specifics of what Kenya is doing to improve its export competitiveness globally. Of course, is it developing value addition in order to widen its offering in terms of export?
Yes, definitely. There is a lot of activities happening around export or investment incentives. We have the export processing zones, which are currently being expanded. We also have the special economic zones, which is currently also being expanded. They are going to be opening up of various special economic zones where we are looking at encouraging investors, both local and global, to invest and expand the Kenya basket of products. So it is a realistic target. And as a country, I think we are very much focused to see that Kenya taps into the African continent, because as you know, Kenya was the first country to ratify the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And I can tell you for a fact that Kenya is associated with breaking up what we call spaghetti bowl, because you see, Africa was constituting so many other regional economic blocks. And now as we move to Africa, one continent, we are looking at finding more markets for our manufactured products or value-added products. So we want to grow as a country, but grow with neighbors. So, and that is why we are looking at a strategy whereby we can be able to attract more investments to Kenya, because Kenya, when you invest in Kenya, you'll be able to access, the African continent. You'll be able to access the African growth and opportunity market in the US. Yes.
Well, one of the issues when we talk about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area is the fact that there's a lot of barriers to entering these markets. There are a lot of things that are hampering export markets regionally and of course internationally as well. One of the things they're debating in Kenya right now is the fact that Kenya's shilling is overvalued against the US dollar, and that hampers food exports going forward. Do you think this could be one of the key setbacks when we talk about improving Kenya's export competitiveness?
I don't think so, because Kenya practices what we call flexible our exchange rate is subject to market forces. What we are just doing currently is to ensure that we increase production. We increase the number of volumes in terms of quantities of exportable products and the kinds in terms of diversifying, and we'll be able to control our macroeconomic environment, because you realize that when we have more produce, then we can be able to check on inflation, and therefore the shilling will remain relatively stronger.
Right.
So I don't think it is an issue of evaluation, because the Kenya shilling is subject to market forces,
right.
of course. So what we are trying to fix to increase on the value is to ensure that production is actually enhanced, and that is why we are looking at special economic zones, new investments locally and globally, and also looking at our companies, whether they are in the financial sector or services, investing in other countries and increasing the amount of foreign income to our country.
Well, on that note, then, what would you pinpoint as probably one of the biggest challenges the government still needs to work on? For example, people talk about the fact that there are not very many arrangements in place or in the pipeline to ease foreign currency exchange between traders between countries such as Kenya and China going forward. I
think which is not a challenge, it's an opportunity. Right. The opportunity that the government of Kenya has is to win more African countries to enter into the African Continental Free Trade Area, to win more Kenyans to support, and invest, and to win many countries to look at Kenya positively and encourage their investors to come to Kenya, and also open markets for Kenya so that we can export our products, we can export our services. So it's a big opportunity for the government, and I think Kenya is at a take-off stage because many countries are interested in doing business with Kenya. As you are aware, currently, we have so many trade expos happening in Kenya. There's going to be a Kenya-China Trade Week. Right. Kenya is going to go to Hunan province of China in June, in the first China-Africa Economic Forum. And we are seeing a lot of business activity and interest in Kenya because of the manner in which we've been able, the government has been able to reach out to other economies so that we can grow together as one continent and as one world.
Right. So you seem quite optimistic when we talk about Kenya's export competitiveness going forward. What then would you say is your outlook, given the fact that in regions like East Africa, we are seeing bilateral agreements are experiencing, some issues. What then is your outlook?
Actually, that is a common occurrence when it comes to regional economic blocks. You will always see certain nationalistic tendencies, but I think the final bullet is the coming in of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area.
Right.
Nobody now is going to focus on looking at a small country like Kenya, a small country like Uganda, but looking at the whole continent and the opportunities that comes with widening the market to the whole continent. So it is about now moving with speed and capturing the moment and the opportunities so that we can be able to drive intra-Africa trade ahead, because that's how even we can tackle China. China is a whole continent.
Right.
So if Africa fixes their home by ensuring that we have that one market of 1.3 billion citizens, then we can be able to trade easily with other markets which have higher incomes than ourselves. Then we can be able to promote what we call macroeconomic convergence, because what we are doing here is when we sell more, when we do more business, then we catch up, because the GDP per capita of China is over $10,000 US. Right. Ours is about 2,000. So you see, it's like we are in a race. Kenya is well known for marathon, and the way marathon starts is you start slowly at the rear, but towards the end you speed it up and you win the race.
Well, many thanks for joining us in the studio, and thank you so much
for
your
insights,
Mr. Biwott. Of course, that was Peter Biwott. He is the CEO of the Export Promotion Council.